Hello, 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 and welcome to this episode of Shelly Show, where we are working towards helping the Indian government doing while we are um, supporting India. So I'm Shailendra, and you're watching this simulcast live on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Hope you're safe and doing well. During the presentation of Union Budget in 2022-23 in the Parliament this year, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman announced that India will have a strong focus on some of the digital initiatives like digital currency, digital university, and 5G under the leadership and guidance of the Prime Minister Narendra Modi. So I decided to bring in thought leaders in this space so they can share their experience and knowledge so both the government of India and the people of India can learn from them. These learnings can also be applied across different countries. So if you're watching from any other part of the world, well, be my guest. This can be helpful. This is the second of the four episodes that I'm running on fortnightly basis, where I bring in some of the very senior thought leaders in these emerging areas, so we can hear their point of view on how India can benefit from these technologies in the digital era. For you to view this episode and other sessions that I run on emerging technologies live, I would request you to follow me so that you can be alerted when a live session is on. This gives you an opportunity to directly ask questions from our guests. So please press the follow button on LinkedIn and Twitter, and subscribe to YouTube, and press the bell icon so that you can be alerted when the live session is on. If you're watching this now, just let us know where you're watching this from, say a hi, and so forth. For this series, we have a different format. It is a presentation style format where guests will run through a presentation and share their thoughts. And after the presentation, I will take your questions. So if you've got a question, then put that in the comment section. And any question that you get during the presentation, just put that in the comment section and I'll pick that up at the end of that particular presentation. Today, I have a giveaway for you as well. Do you guys use LinkedIn? And if you use LinkedIn, do you know how LinkedIn is projecting to the world when you share your LinkedIn profile with people? You write on it, you post, but you actually don't know what people feel when they use LinkedIn. Use your LinkedIn profile or view your LinkedIn profile. For that very benefit, that very particular reason, we've created an app called Link Plus AI, which is an invite-only app, and it is available on both Google Play and Apple iOS, Apple iOS. All you need to do is scan this QR code. It's invite only, so it will require an invite code. The invite code is 611074. So use that invite code, and you will be allowed to understand what your profile looks like and how is it projecting to the world. I think this is something very, very beneficial for the professionals who are actually using LinkedIn on regular basis, or they don't have time to use LinkedIn all the time, but they still are promoting themselves. And I think this is a very good app. It is an AI based, machine learning based app. So please, please, please go ahead, download this app. Even if you are not able to scan this QR code, all you can do is go to Google Play, type in Google Link Plus AI, and or in Apple Store, type in Link Plus AI and download the app. And when you log in using your LinkedIn profile, it will ask you for an invite code. So provide that invite code 611074, and you will get this app free of cost. It's absolutely free, no ads, nothing. It's only towards professionals and used for professionals to use it. So that is a giveaway for today. Okay. Um, During the budget speech, now coming back to the budget speech of Dr. Nirmala Sitharaman, during the budget speech for 2022-23, Nirmala Sitharaman, Finance Minister, announced that 5G mobile services rollout in the country is going to begin in 2022-23. She also announced a PLI scheme for 5G services and added that rural broadband is also going to be expanded across the country, and that would be huge because people living in far off places, in rural places, will be able to then use 5G or a fast network and be able to do different things. And we will hear from our guests today how that will benefit the Indian people. spectrum auctions will be conducted in 2022 for 5G rollout, which will be during this year, as was mentioned by Mrs. Sitharaman. To enable affordable broadband and mobile services proliferation in rural and remote areas, 5% of annual collections under the Universal Service Obligation Fund will be located, and that will be used to promote R&D and D and commercialization of technologies and solutions. That's what Sitharaman said. So it is going to be huge, and India is going to be at the center of all the R&D of 5G. She also said that her vision is that all villages and the residents should have the same access to e-services, communication facilities, and resources as urban areas, and the residents. The contracts for laying optical fibers in these villages, including remote areas, will be awarded under the Bharat NET project through PPP in 2022-23. The completion is expected in 2025. That's what she said. Okay, her, based on her announcement, we are getting today two guests, two very senior leaders in the industry coming from India who actually are experts in 5G. So my first guest is Annapurna Pradhan, who is currently a PhD research scholar at NIT, Rourkela, preceded by over 10 years of experience in academia as an assistant professor. She is currently working on ultra reliable low latency communication URLLC using machine learning and deep learning techniques. And hopefully, she will cover that aspect of 5G as well. Apart from that, consultant from various startups for developing machine learning based micro services. She's a public speaker at various international platforms. She's the chief mentor of the Machine Learning Club at NITR and well versed with volunteering activities worldwide. She's also ambassador for AI Exponential Thinker for India. So, without any further ado, let me bring in Annapurna Pradhan. Hi, Annapurna, how are you doing?
Hi, Salendra. I'm fine. So,
Good
thank
stuff.
you for this nice introduction.
No, thank you very much. Please say a few things about yourself for the audience so that we can, and then I will hand it over to you and you can go ahead from there.
Okay, thank you. So, already you have told a lot about me. So, currently I'm doing my PhD in National Institute of Technology, Rourkela, India. I'm working in the field of wireless communication and in particular to URLLC techniques as it's one of the mission critical communication challenges for next generation of mobile communication and wireless communication. And I have experience of academics. I already have the opportunity to work with various industry personnels and the service providers also, and some of the startups, those who are working dedicatedly for enabling these 5G enabled technologies for vertical industries also. So I'm associated with them on the real time basis, and I have seen the challenges and the opportunities what 5G is going to present. So that's why I have chosen this topic, so that I can elaborate it more and have the knowledge and provide the basic knowledge to the listeners.
Good stuff. Thank you very much. Before I hand it over to you, to the audience, guys, please, whenever you're watching this, wherever you're watching this, please press the like button and share this video with as many people as possible so that they can also understand and learn on how 5G is going to make a big difference to the world. So please don't forget to press the like button or the heart button, or and also share this video as you go forward. So please, and if you've got a comment, if you've got anything that you think is complicated, you want to ask, put that in the comment section. And just after the presentation, I will ask that to Annapurna. So Annapurna, the floor is yours. I will go away and I'll just bring your presentation on. Here we go. And I'm
Thank
gone.
you,
Thank you.
Salendra.
Over to you, Annapurna.
Thank you so much. So, good morning, everyone. As I have already mentioned, that I will be giving some insight about the requirements and opportunity of the 5G, and why it is important, and to understand what 5G will bring on the table while we are thinking about the next generation communication and applications. So we need to understand what are the requirements to enable the 5G services, and what opportunities it will provide to all the economical development, social development, and what it provides as a research challenge perspectives, what we can include. So I have chosen this topic. So let's get started. So I'm Annapurna Pradhan, PhD, currently doing PhD in NIT Rourkela. So I want to share that if I will start from the beginning, how 5G has emerged. So we have seen various previous generation of communication, starting from 1G, 2G, and now it's 5G. We are thinking about 5G. We are working on the field for enabling 5G technologies for practical usage by the users. So what are the basic difference between the previous generation and this 5G? What it provides. So previous generation, when it has started from the fixed fixed communication links or wired communication link, when it is started in the 1G era, so that it provides the basic fundamental improvement, that is without the wire. So 1G introduced without wire communication, then some technological advancements has been done. So 1G provided the necessary foundation for wireless communication. Then the advancements like including the voice services or messaging services, all these things has been advanced and added to the current generation like 1G and 2G. Then the next thing like internet service protocols inclusion, then it emerged from the era from 3G to 4G. So if we can see the timeline, every decade it is being changed and generated, and it provides new services and new opportunities. Similarly, in this 2020 era, we are thinking about 5G, and in some part, the deployment and the tests are being started to enable 5G for the real world customers. Now for the next it's the basic of 5G, the next generation of communication technologies will be emerged. So we can see that it is just providing a smart sustainable society. So it's an if I will come specific to the 5G, it will provide an end-to-end ecosystem with a fully connective society, anytime, anywhere communication. So I will, in my talk, I will try to cover all these aspects. What are the requirements? What are the effects? What are the applications, challenges, opportunities for various sectors, and what can be the projected beyond 5G communication technologies, and why it is important. Now, as I have already told, electricity is a groundbreaking invention to make a generation leap forward. Similarly, it will not be less if I will compare the wireless connectivity with the electricity, because as we know that the importance of this wireless connectivity we have already felt during the pandemic time, because when everything was under lockdown, at that time this wireless connectivity provided us the basic necessary connection to the out of the world, out or other person, other countries, and our relatives and everyone. So and to the work front also, this wireless connectivity played a very important role at that time. So we can say that it is just like the electricity for this generation of communication. Now, what this 5G will enable, like when we will come together and think about the implementation of 5G, what will enable? So, basic enabling thing is the connected community. As I have already mentioned, how the community will connect to itself, starting from the smart infrastructure and smart services, what we are thinking, like from our home to the outside world and the environment, taking all the condition constant into account, how we can connect to each other, how we can transmit data and receive data and get the inference from that, what it provides. So it's basically connecting everything to everything, like from a business to a customer, then through to any kind of services, everything will be connected through wireless transmissions, where the data plays a very important role. Because as we know that when we want to provide provide data or transmit data, it's very much essential that we have to consider this connections. So previously it was wired, now it becomes the wireless connection. Now, as I can define or think about the 5G, what can be the key features of 5G in a nutshell? Like the latency, which is very important factor, then the connection density, like how many users can be accommodated or getting services, and the connection speed or the data speed. Because as we are growing with the generation, again the demand for data is also generating. So these, I can summarize that these three are the key features which are making 5G better than other generation. Now, if I will go to the research front, like standardizing the 5G activities worldwide, there are some releases from 3GPP, like third generation partnership projects. So these releases gives the standardized value of the technology and enabling technologies and the services, so that there will be a uniformity about the standards in the entire world, irrespective of the service providers or telecom operators, OEMs, everyone. So here, starting from the release 15, when the 5G basics have started, and I want to mention here that 5G has been developed on the ground of 4G. That means the basic fundamental is 4G, and 5G has just emerged from that. And taking the fundamental from 4G, it has emerged and added some new benefits, so that it it takes the benefit from 4G and built upon that. So 5G basics and the related about all the services has been provided by the release 15. Then all the advanced services or application enabling it provided in the release 16, like mission critical communication or URLNC communication, then release 17 and everything, then massive connectivity which can be provided by this MNTC services. Then we are expecting in the further releases in the next coming few years, we will get some advanced techniques from 5G or advanced technology inclusion into the 5G techniques through these releases, which will be public, so that everyone can get the knowledge that what is happening. Now we are also expecting that we can say that beyond this release 17, we can say that it's a beyond 5G generation, or we can say the basics of 6G generation, 6G enhancements. Now, the specification requirements, as I have already mentioned, that 5G has some specific requirements which has to be satisfied. That means if we can, there are so many requirements, but if we want to summarize it, then we can summarize into key points like availability, then reliability, low latency, coverage, data speed. So, what it provides, why it is better? So, it provides from, as I have already mentioned, that from the 4G to 5G, what has been the better? The availability or the reliability is up to 5 nines, like 99.999% of reliability. That means there is a very less chance of error in the data transmission, like 10 to the power of minus 5 as the error probability. So similarly, for coverage also, it provides a larger, it provides a massive connectivity guarantee, and the coverage through the technologies like massive MIMO inclusion of these technologies, it provided a higher coverage density. Now coming to the network energy usage also, yes, it consumes a bit more, it consumes energy, because as the subscribers are going on increasing, and the activities through the wireless connection is increasing. But if we will compare with the previous generation, the technologies which has been developed for 5G, they are keeping in mind like energy consumption as a parameter, so that we can reduce the energy consumption, and it can satisfy a mass customer by reducing the consumption. Similarly, there are these specific requirements are very much important, like data rate. Now inclusion of high definition video streaming, it requires a very high data rate. So these kind of services can be provided with these particular requirements. Now, as I have mentioned, that 5G requirements are different, but here, which applications are 5G going to satisfy, or what are the verticals, or what are the application areas where we can include this 5G, starting from the automotive, like intelligent transport system or autonomous vehicle, to factory for future, like industry 4.0. Now it's increasing, so inclusion of these kind of techniques or wireless connectivity, we can see there is a paradigm shift from the applications before 10 years, now the applications after 10 years, like smart grid operation, e-health operation. Like in the time of pandemic, we have felt the importance of healthcare system and making it automated, so that a person at home can avail the facility what is being provided at a hospital. Now the remote healthcare monitoring system, then remote surgery, all these are the budding research topics, and many researchers are working on it to provide these kind of facilities by automating the things at the remote locations. Now comes to the very important point of 5G service classes. 5G, if we will see that how it is different than 4G, we can categorize the services into three main categories, like enhanced mobile broadband services, massive machine type communication, and ultra reliable low latency communication. So what are these type of services? In elaborated manner, I will explain in my subsequent slide. But to give a holistic approach or a holistic view, here we can categorize various kind of service requirements into three major category. Like there are communication happens between human to human, or human to machine, or machine to machine communications. So if we will segregate these kind of communications in a wireless manner, then what are the applications can be benefited? Like for extreme mobile broadband communication, there are applications like virtual reality, augmented reality, high definition video streaming, and video monitoring. So everything comes under this broadband services, because broadband services require higher data rate, higher bandwidth of communication. So it is a, we can say that it's a bandwidth hungry service, but it provides a very large streaming capability or data rate. Now comes to the massive connectivity, where it requires like a smart home system, where in a particular home there are a lot of gadgets, those who are constantly transmitting or receiving signals and data. So at that time, collecting those massive amount of data from various sensor nodes in a particular scenario, like smart factory or smart home, then it brings another kind of connectivity or service which is provided by 5G, that is a massive machine type communication. Then last but not the least, the most important thing is the ultra reliable low latency communication, which makes the 5G superior than the previous generation of communication. Like what is this? Like the data which is being transmitted from one node to other, that should have the utmost reliability. That means packet loss probability will be very less, and the main criteria, that data should be transmitted within very low latency, like maximum up to 1 millisecond for some criteria, and 1 to 4 millisecond. So those are the standardized thing, end-to-end communication service which is being provided by 5G. Now coming to the more elaborate manner to each of the services. Now, as I have already mentioned, this enhanced mobile broadband service, what it provides, yes, there is a large traffic there is a more traffic, and it requires more data rate. And just because it provides more services to bandwidth hungry services like streaming services or augmented reality services. So here the benefits what customer get is the quality of experience or QoE at their footprint, at their fingertips. So here quality of services or quality of experience for this enhanced mobile broadband service is very high than the previous generation, because it requires or it provides a very high data rate of communication for the streaming services like this. Now, coming to the URLLC services like mission critical communications like autonomous driving and factory automation and remote healthcare and surgery, all the manufacturing, mining. So, in all the cases where the data should be more reliable and whatever has been communicated, that should have more reliability and faster delivery of the data, that is being provided by this ultra reliable low latency communication. And it also support the mobility pattern of the user, like if the user in mobility, like it is changing, so it supports those handover conditions and without degrading the quality of the service. Now, the last thing is the massive machine type communication. As I have already told, we can say that IoT like communication, IoT devices where the sensors are there or wireless sensor networks. So, all those cases in all those services like immense augmented reality, smart home, smart city, smart parking. So in all the cases whatever we are seeing in these type of services, they are dependent on the sensor data, and smart devices are communicating with each other, or it can be called machine to machine or human to machine or machine to human communication. So a large number of communication devices are coming together to give a high density. So here this MMTC provides the support to the density or number of devices which is being served by the service provider or network. So that is being increased by these kind of services. Now, depending on the requirements provided by IMT, so IMT 2020 and what are the advanced version or how it is built on IMT Advanced. So these are the various KPIs like key performance index. So various KPIs which are directly contributing to the various enabling technologies of 5G. Like what are the use cases? Here we can see that the KPIs like peak data rate, user data rate, and latency, and everything. What should be the maximum value within that? So that what happens if we are providing these kind of services for a particular use case scenario, then these should be the maximum and minimum value limits which are being provided. So density for 5G, the connection density, as I have told, like number of devices which are being increased and or support to those devices and services to those devices are increased 1,000 times. Similarly, mobility up to 500 kilometer per hour has been supported by these kind of services. And I have already mentioned about URLLC service, which is providing the service within very less time period, within 1 millisecond of time, and the reliability is also less than 10 to the power of minus 5. Like the packet error rate should be less than the 10 to the power of minus 5 value, and it should be available all the time. That is, we can say that the availability of the service should not interrupt, there should not be any stalling time, there should not be a large buffering time or queuing time, so that the availability will be always greater than the 99%. Now, what 5G NR provides, as I have already mentioned, these mission critical services. 5G NR provides some of the new flexible slot structure, massive MIMO connectivity, millimeter wave communication. So these kind of technologies, enabling technologies, are being provided by 5G NR to meet the requirement of extreme applications. As if we will take any of the extreme applications, then in that case 5G, what 5G provides, and like grant free access to the uplink and downlink communication, then more bandwidth access, then the network slicing type of services for providing individual or reserving the resources for individual services if there is a multiplexing is there. So the 5G NR provides a various technological advancements to enable these kind of requirements. Yes, as I have already mentioned, I need to just quickly go through this one. So, what is the 5G in our frame structure and numerology? Now, if we will think about the 4G communication, at that time, the basic subcarrier spacing which is being used is the only fixed, it was 15 kilohertz subcarrier spacing. Now, we can see that. The services which are being provided in 4G, that has been changed in 5G. So to enable those advanced services, we need to adopt the flexible frame structure for data transmission, like the subcarrier spacing between the data will be very different, like 15 kilohertz, 30 kilohertz. So those depends on the numerology parameter mu. Now, according to the subcarrier spacing, again the slot time will be reduced, and again the slot will be subdivided into mini slot to provide the basic operational requirement for URLNC like services. Now, any frame or 4G frame was previously it was of 10 millisecond of time period. Now it is divided into subframes of each 1 millisecond. Again, subframes are divided into number of slots, and each slot is again subdivided into mini slots, so that these services or the critical services, when they are transmitting their data, they can be scheduled on those mini slot basis, so that there will not be any latency delay, and it can easily be transmitted without any delay or without introducing any queuing error or buffering error. So that's why these new flexible frame structure are being developed. Now, if we will think about the multiple services at a time, how this flexible frame structure, which is being provided by 5G NR, is going to support. Now, if we will think about the flexible slot based structure, now here flexible slot means it is the resources, or we can say the time and frequency resource allocation to a particular. There is a service request come, need to provide some resources to the user so that it can transmit that particular time period and with the corresponding frequency range. So in those cases, if I have streaming data coming through the network, then again to the same network, if I am having sensor data or massive machine type data communication, then if there is some autonomous vehicle data is coming, like services coming, how it is going to adapt to the frame structure. So that's why the flexibility of the frame structure is very important, where EMBB service require a higher bandwidth or more portion of the frequency, and it will continue longer period of time period. But URLNC data requires high frequency but very less time period at that time. So what happens, there are techniques like puncturing or superposition techniques by which URLNC data is being transmitted on the top of the ongoing EMBB data and other services to meet the quality of service requirement for individual 5G services. Now, what this 5G network architecture be like? So, when we are saying that there is a connectivity everywhere, anytime, so what should be there? So the processing or the signal transmission should be a layered architecture. Layered architecture means irrespective of uh, controlling all the communication at a central server, we are focusing more, or the 5G focuses more on the layered architecture, layer processing. There should be a central server. There are some local servers like local servers which can process the data locally and give it to the central server, so that there will be faster communication and reliable communication. So irrespective of centrally looking to all the things, it gets subdivided. Now if we will say about the cloud infrastructure also, we are in this 5G, it is not being considered at the only central cloud. There are some fog nodes are also there, which provided services to the mobile edge customers, those who are at the edge of the cell, and to provide the similar kind of data rate and quality of experience at their end, so that there will not be any latency inside or latency increase of the services by that. So it is a layered architecture which provides flexibility in the structure, and it can add new enabling technologies to make it better. Now, yes, 5G has some unified and air interface services. Now, if you can see that the inclusion of millimeter wave, that is above 24 gigahertz band, and the mid band section. So, these diverse spectrum accessibility and diverse services, as I have just mentioned, diverse services accessibility, and the diverse deployment scenarios and the application areas, inclusion of beamforming and advanced hybrid beamforming techniques, then massive MIMO techniques, terahertz communication. So these are the future implementation of 5G, which provides or makes 5G more robust than the previous generation of communication. And this provides the basic fundamental platform for the future innovation, what we are thinking, which should be built upon the 5G basis. Now, as I have already mentioned that this 5G brings faster speed, low latency, and bandwidth for these the services like augmented reality. Yes, the speed is very important in that. Latency is also important. Nobody likes a video streaming which is pausing every time, and the stalling time is very high. So these kind of services are promised by the 5G service providers. And processing time at the factory floor or industrial robots, those who are used for robotic arms are being used on the factory floor. So if the latency is being very high on those conditions, then the processing will get mismatched, and there will be a chance of any kind of accidents also. So all these things are being considered while designing 5G technology. Now, coming to a very important aspect, that we are telling that there are challenges while implementing wireless communication at a larger scale, but we can see it as an opportunity also. So previously, we can see there was very less traffic, there was very less number of devices being connected to the wireless network, and there are less users, those who are frequently using the data and transmitting, receiving everything. And previously also the network design was also very simple, it was centralized design. But now what happens, it comes, it everything has been changed from 5 years before to now 5 years after. In 2022 we can see a large surge of the services, service providers, large service surge of the users, those who are accessing, subscribers are increasing. So everything has been shifted to multifolds. Okay, so demand is also increasing, so we can see it as a challenge for a wireless communication. But yes, those challenges are base for the opportunity. If those challenges are being met, the research is going on. So the development of new enabling technologies for mitigating these challenges provides a big opportunity to be included in the wireless communication or any kind of business model development. Now, what are the basic opportunities I can see that, like the potential of streamline remote working? Like I have told, we can see in last 2 years there is a potential of remotely working, which is being provided by this wireless services, and in future also that will also increase the support for these kind of infrastructure. So adopting the 5G technology and adopting the opportunities and going for the innovation is very important. Now comes to the business and industry perspective. Yes, it is very much essential to include those services into the action so that some part of automation can give boost to the economy also. Now, the key decision, and I must mention here that today's technology is basically the data driven. So that means everywhere the data is being generated. So we have to take the optimal decisions out of data which is being generated by these kind of services. So these decisions will definitely lead to a long term growth, or it can definitely lead to a, very better customer experience, we can say. Now, I want to just discuss about a case study of autonomous driving or V2X communication, vehicle to everything communication. Now, if V2X communication is being enabled, then what are the things which where the data is being transferred, and why this 5G will be very much essential for this autonomous driving condition? It's, if we will take it as a case study. Now what happens if there is a vehicle moving on the road on its own, like autonomous driving? Then it has to get the information correctly and within a very less time period, and the information it can get from the roadside units, and roadside units, smart traffic light, then smart infrastructures which are being embedded, or IRS on the buildings. So what happens, these signals or anything which is happening after 1 kilometer, or the traffic pattern which is being there, what will be the shortest route, which route is taking more time to reach to the destination, or if there is a very network congestion is there, or traffic congestion is there, or any accidents are being accident is there ahead, then to take the diverted route. So all this kind of information has to be exchanged between the roadside units, cellular tower or communication infrastructure, or vehicle to vehicle. So the vehicle which is moving ahead, it can provide the essential and necessary information to the vehicle which is at the back. And if there is a obstacle is coming, and another vehicle which is ahead is having the brake system, then it will also provide the information to the vehicle which is coming at the back to apply the brake, so that there will be no collision and accident. So this safety information about routing and inclusion of GPS and enabling AMB streaming services and everything require a holistic approach and data transmission, which can be enabled by 5G because of these advanced techniques which are being included in the 5 in developing the 5G scenario. Now, when coming to the industrial perspective, now there are various manufacturing industries, then mining industry. So, where the automation is very much essential to give the boost to the economy, to those industry as well as to the country or to the nation, so that what happens if the things or the production being doubled or more than that, with the inclusion of these automatic vehicles or robotic arms or automations into that particular industrial area. Yes, it gives very uh, fundamental aspect where the importance of inclusion of these kind of services are being felt, and we can see there is a huge surge in the margin or huge surge in the revenue being generated when these kind of services are being implemented. Now, this is just a outline which I want to show you that how it is contributing to the global economy. It is a survey made in 5G economy. So, the intelligent connectivity, yes, I will also cover that one. The intelligent connectivity through wireless is okay. If we are including the intelligence into those connectivity, yes, definitely it is going to affect the socio-economic growth. For industrial revolution, this is the uh, outlook. But yes, it can implemented to any sector and give these kind of economy boost. Now, for inclusion of these kind of economy boost and everything for private service providers, this network slicing plays a very important role, because the resources 5G or wireless resources are very limited. We have less frequency bandwidth, we have less power allocation and transmit power level. So how we will intelligently schedule the services depending on the desired quality of service requirement, that is very much important. And that's why these industries which are using 5G, they focus on this network pricing, so that some dedicated resources are being reserved for the services depending on their particular deployment scenario. So this network slicing is one of the important enabling technologies in 5G. Yes, the next big thing is the inclusion of machine learning techniques or AI into 5G. As I have already mentioned, the generation of data. So many industries, many services, they generate, or applications, they generate a lot of data, lot of network data, lot of data from their particular application. So how it is going to be used by the service providers to enhance the level of their services. So in that case, the data and the knowledge will contribute to a complex or contribute to solve a complex challenge in wireless scenario, like the supervised data or unsupervised techniques, or in some cases the reinforcement techniques are also being used. Now, if I can say that the learning becomes very important, because it gives the advanced ability to automatically extract the features out of the data, and it it reduces the complexity, because if the number of data is increasing day by day with massive machine type communication, a lot of sensors are being connected. If the number of data is being increased, then what happens to manage those data is very difficult for human being to manage it manually. So if these machines are coming into play and take those data and generate the desired pattern, or generate or extract the features to adapt and adopt to the fluctuating environment, then it can solve very complex problems which are not being solvable by practical humans. So it gives the boost to the problem solving ability for any of the scenarios. Now we have seen the advancement of machine learning techniques and computer vision. We have seen for NLPs and everything. Yes, these techniques can be included in 5G problem solving, and it will definitely give a boost and edge to those services that we can see to enable the futuristic applications like tactile internet applications and all. Now, this is just a quite interesting graph I came across, that the inclusion of AI is gradually replacing the human intelligence, because the human intelligence, yes, up to certain level it's okay, but when the data traffic everything increases beyond the imagination, is at that time the processing has to be, some part of the processing has to be done by the machines, and humans should be there in the loop to control everything, to monitor everything, and so that uh, we can get the desired result out of uh, out of the data what are being collected. So starting from the service providers, OEMs, and the tool assisted automation, so it is moving toward a automatic intelligent system. So we can in short say that it is a intelligent connectivity. 5G is just the base, and on which we can develop other generation. It is the base for providing intelligent connectivity to the wireless. Now, in the first slide, I have given the brief about the 1G to 5G. Now, if I want to build beyond 5G, what should be the evolution, or what 6G or beyond 5G generation will provide? Yes, it will definitely provide a very futuristic applications areas. Whatever we are thinking today, yes, that can be possible in a some way, like energy efficient techniques, or the techniques like pervasive AI techniques. So AI based techniques and the inclusion of machine learning will give a to the boost to solve the challenges at every sector and manage the data very well. Now, there are various application areas which can be best served by 6G. So, we can see that there are applications like connected robots, then the wireless brain computer interaction. We can see there are various experiments are being going out, like neurochip and everything. So, everything those who are those who are thinking the smart automation or smart gadgets are being developed to monitor the healthcare system. Now if they are connected in a end-to-end manner, give uh, the healthcare system a boost. Similarly, the robotics arm and autonomous system can give a boost to the factory automation. Then inclusion of blockchain and quantum based techniques into the system to provide more security of the data which are being generated. So those applications gives rise to the driving trends which we can see, and at last the enabling technology for the next generation communication. So this is just a speculative prediction what we can see by standing in 2022 after 10 years, what we can see what should be there in the 6G communication. So this is just a speculation about the techniques. These are my references. Thank you. Before concluding, I just want to say that this 5G provides a holistic approach, or it provides an end-to-end ecosystem. It will provide the end-to-end ecosystem where we can think about the smart connectivity, we can think about the connection which is undisputed, and we can think about the applications which are very futuristic, and applications which are s- very much providing, or it will make the life easier in some aspect. So I hope I have covered quite few things. So thank you very much. Now I would like to take questions from you.
Good stuff. Thank you, Annapurna. Thank you for your time. It was really, really insightful and interesting. There are quite a few questions, I think, and so I'll have to take them one by one. Just give me a second, and we will come to the questions. To all the people who are watching this, please, please, please like this video with so that more and more people can watch it, and share it around. You've got the link. If you're watching on YouTube, just take that link and share it in your WhatsApp groups as well, so people can actually watch it, and learn from what Annapurna shared with us, and the other guest is going to share in just a few minutes. Also, if you're watching this on LinkedIn, please like this, share this with as many people as possible, because this is insights and knowledge that comes from academia and industry, and I think more and more people should learn from it. That's my personal view. So please, please, please like it, share it, and also don't forget to follow me wherever you are, so that you can be alerted when we come up with these new videos and ideas. Okay, before I get to the questions, very very quickly, one message and then I'm on. Here we go. Okay, here we go. Questions. So there are quite a few questions. Let's start. The first question I have is from Archana Pradhan, and she says, "Ma'am, in channel prediction, wireless channels lead to high packet loss probability in URLLC. How packet losses over deep fading channels can be avoided?"
Okay. Thank you. It's a wonderful question. Yes, I want to take this question. So, here, whenever we are doing the channel predictions, like it's a predictive analysis, we are predicting what is the channel quality, what is the SNR or RSRP. So, what happens? High packet loss probability in URLLC is a big problem because URLLC depends on reliability, where the packet loss probability should be very minimum. Now, for depending on this high packet loss probability for URLLC in deep fed system, yes, what we can include, we can use relayed structure first, or like relayed communication where the deep fades are there. So if we will include the relay communication, yes, it adds to the latency, but it increases the reliability. Like it amplifies the signal, or we can say there are protocols like decoded amplify or amplify and forward. So these kind of protocols can increase the reliability of the system. And another aspect, if you will include machine learning based data analysis techniques, by taking or monitoring the network at a particular point. So if we can predict the network in advance, then what will happen, we can increase the power level of the transmission, or we can make the adjustment at the scheduling level, so that these kind of packet losses will not occur, and it will not hamper the URLLC services more. And the third thing I want to mention is to introduce the network slice kind of infrastructure, so that where high amount of resources we can provide for your LLC to accommodate these packet losses over deep fed channels.
Okay,
Thank you,
thank
Archana.
you, Archana. Thank you. Hopefully, you got the answer to the question. The next question is on from LinkedIn. So, as you know, that we're going live on many channels at the same time. We go live on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. So, this question came from YouTube. The next is from Twitter, from LinkedIn, and from Raktim Singh. And Raktim Singh asks, limitation of 5G. My understanding is that in 5G, we need to have multiple 5G towers in an area. That's in 4G. Towers are located at faraway places, but in 5G, many more towers in that same area will be required. Is my understanding correct?
Yes, thank you, Rakdim sir. So, uh, yes, your understanding is correct because, as I have already mentioned, we have built, or the 5G technology has been built on the platform of 4G. There are many more advanced technologies which are being introduced by 5G, and advanced requirements are also there. If 5G promises to provide more data rate and higher connection density, then it need to have a high power transmission to a small communication area. So irrespective of the macro cells in the 4G, here 5G can be concentrated on the small cells, so that it can provide the required data rate for the services and the connection anytime and anywhere. So for that purpose, the 5G coverage area reduces than the previous generation as 4G. So if the coverage area reduces, we require more number of base stations in that particular area to provide those particular to provide this high quality of services for each of the users. Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Okay. The next question from Raktim himself is, and whether our current mobile phones need to be upgraded to avail 5G. Of course, that is. What do you think?
Yes. Yeah. Actually, the 5G, as I have already told, that the current mobile phone what we are using, they are limited in their what they provide. If we want to fully feel or want to fully available the power of 5G, then definitely it required some advanced chipsets. Like Qualcomm has already published the chipsets in 2017 to enable the 5G services. So these advanced services require some upgradation in the current mobile phone so that we can get the full benefit out of the service.
Good stuff. Okay, next question is from Manaranjan Bahera, and he says, "Hi Manaranjan. Hopefully, I've got your name right. But as a new paradigm of computing, do you believe, Annapurna ma'am, MEC can be a promising architecture for UR's LLC?"
That's a very good question, Manoranjan. The thing is that yes, mobile age computing is definitely be one of the most important thing or important architectural component for providing URLLC, because uh, whenever we are thinking URLLC, the basic quality of service requirement is reliability and latency. Now, the users, those who are at the edge of the cellular network, they also require those kind of services, but with a latency reduction. So for those enabling those low latency communication, yes, there are fog nodes are being used. There are edge computing are being used, like decentralizing the computing and the communication, or the edge caching is being used to provide these kind of low latency communication. Yes.
Good stuff. Thank you. Let's look at the next question or comment. To that, I would also want to know my personal view or my personal question to you is, as we go towards the AI paradigm where there is a cloud-based environment and there is a edge which are interacting. In cases when there is a 5G blackout or if there is a issue with the connectivity, don't you think that the edge computing devices have to be much more intelligent as well, and they would be they will require larger computing power compared to other dumb terminals that we used to see once upon a time?
Yeah, the thing is that 5G blackout and all, yes, whenever anything is, any technology is being developed, they have to consider all the challenges which has been taken. Now, when we are thinking about the decentralizing the computing power to the edge, so it provides many benefit or caching at the edge. So when there is no communication for some time, yes, the intelligence which are being implemented at the edge, they need to take into account those communication challenges. And in that case, the caching of the information which is at the fog nodes, they can take the advantage of the caching of the messages or data, so that there will not be a connection gap between the edge devices and the services which are being communicated to them.
Good stuff. Thank you. That is quite insightful. Next comment is from Biswarup Dhal. Says, "Hi Annapurna, wonderful presentation. Thank you, Biswarup." And the next question is posed is, "Can you please briefly mention how deep learning can be integrated for QoS requirements of a URLLC?"
Yes. So, quality of service means what? At the customer side, whenever a customer is running any 5G applications on their user devices, at that time they should get all the benefits. So, as I have already mentioned, for URLLC, again, the reliability and latency are the most important factor, with some nominal data rate. So that should be achievable at the customer side. Now, coming to the applications of deep learning, yes, the deep learning has various benefits, and we have already we know the benefits of deep learning technique in computer vision and NLP and other techniques also. So what happens when we integrate the deep learning based techniques. That means what we are doing, we are analyzing the data and trying to predict the things like channel estimation using deep learning method for providing the better services and to provide the accurate services for the applications which are run or using this urllc.
Interesting. Okay. Vishwarup says thank you once again, Annapurna. Next question is from Raktim Singh, and he says, or put it another way, what type of devices you have seen till today which are able to use 5G other than the mobile phones? Good question.
Okay. Yes. Yes, that's a very nice question. Yes. Other than mobile phone, yes, you must have heard about the factory automation system where there are very less human intervention. There are robotic arms, those who are working, and they are doing the work by taking the advantages of 5G, where a centralized controller can transmit the data packets to the robotics arms or the actuators which are presented on the factory floor. They can communicate within very low time period, that is less than 1 millisecond, I must say. So in those cases, in automating the factories here, the uses of 5G communication is more. Then next, in case of the mining operations, where the mining devices or the sensors are like gas sensors and everything are being implemented on the mining side, they need to provide the data very fast, instantly, so that it can prevent any kind of accidents in the mining sites. Now, the third thing I must mention about the autonomous driving. Yes, a lot of research are being going on, as I have taken the case study of that, like safety information transmission, where I want to mention about the cellular V2X communication, where the vehicle to everything communication is assisted by cellular nodes or cellular towers, where they can relay the information from one vehicle to other vehicle by using some fog nodes to enable the low latency communication. So this cellular V2X communication is also in some part they are trying to implement this 5G to get the full benefit out of that. There are many drive tests are being done. There are many test beds are being set up to test these kind of applications and see how the KPIs are being varied. 5G KPIs are being varied for all these scenarios.
Hmm. Very interesting. Okay. Next question, and looks like the last, is from Jitender Singh, and the name hasn't come through for some reason on from LinkedIn, but I can see that it's Jitender Singh, and he says, do we have infrastructure which support the 5G and impact of frequency needs to be looked upon?
Yeah, infrastructure in the sense, as I have told, that these are there are applications which require 5G support, like as I have mentioned, factory automation and everything. Now, infrastructure means like the 5G base stations, 5G devices, those who are running on the data and processing the data and giving the KPIs according to the 5G applications, like throughput, how it is different when it is using the 4G network and when it is using the 5G network. I must say that the 5G, there are the deployment scenarios like standalone, then non-standalone deployment scenarios. In standalone, it is using the full benefit of 5G communication, but in non-standalone type of communication, where it is being flexible, in some cases it takes the advantage of 4G network, in some cases it takes the advantage of 5G network. So it's a combination type of deployment scenarios. So the infrastructure which are solely dependent on 5G, they should work on the standalone infrastructure. And there are applications, yes, which are solely dependent on 5G infrastructure. For example, this factory automation.
Okay, that was good. Thank you. There is a comment from Raktim who says thanks. Thank you very much.
Thank
So
you.
yeah, thank you, Annapurna. Thank you for taking time. I think it was pleasure having you on the show and you walking through the technicalities and all the use cases that you shared with us. It was pleasure, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Salindra, and thank you all the audience, those who are listening and actively asking the question. And I love to do that. So thank you very much, Salindra, for providing this opportunity, this conversation, and I hope to see you in future also.
Good
Thank you.
stuff. Thank you very much. Hopefully, the government is listening and can learn a few things from you, and and they can reach out to you directly if they want, or if they want to reach out to me, I can point them to you as well. So, thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Um, Okay, guys, thank you very much. Thank you, Annapurna. As Annapurna goes in and I bring in the next guest, if you're watching this live, wherever you're watching it on whatever platform, please press the like button. And if you're liking what you're seeing, please press the follow button also, so that you can follow me. And and in the future, whenever I have the next episode, you get alerted when the new show is on. So please press the follow button, subscribe button on YouTube, and the bell icon, follow button on LinkedIn and Twitter, and whatever platform you're watching this on. For this particular video, please like, retweet, share, so that more people can learn from these guys. Before I get to the next guest, one more thing we are giving away today is the access to Link Plus AI app, which is available for free for all the audience on both iOS and Google Play Store. All you need to do is look out for Link Plus AI, or scan this code, and it will take you to that particular app on the App Store. Download it, and it is an invite only. It is free, absolutely free, no ads, and invite only. It will ask you for an invite, and the invite code will be 611074. Use that, and it will give you a very good understanding of your LinkedIn profile. It uses machine learning at the back of it to actually explain to you, to showcase how your profile is looking like, and what it means to the people when they have a look at it. It's a very different interface. Try it, and I've been using it for a while, and I really love it. So hopefully you will also like it. So all you need to do is just scan the code, download the app, and give an invite code 611074. And it is free and no ads. Okay, getting to the next guest. Our next guest is Sunil David. Sunil has over 28 years of experience in the IT and telecom industry, and was recently the regional director for AT&T in India, and is based out of Chennai. He was responsible for building the IoT strategy for India and ASEAN regions, and worked with various internal stakeholders to ensure successful execution. Also working on building a robust partner ecosystem for AT&T in the entire IoT value chain. Sunil was involved in on a number of marketing initiatives to help enhance the AT&T brand in the IoT space. So he's known for his IoT work and 5G as well. He was recognized as one of the top 10 data scientists in India in 2015, and was top 10 most influential analytics leaders in India in 2020 by Analytics India magazine. Sunil has also written articles related to the use of IoT in shipping industry, Industry 4.0, disruptive technologies, 5G, IoT platform, and cybersecurity for leading B2B publications, having a wide circulation amongst the CIO community in India. So, without any further ado, let me bring in Sunil David. Hi, Sunil. How are you doing? Welcome to the Shelly Show, and in this cause of supporting India in this digital era.
Thank you, Shailendra, for inviting me for the show. I think it's the second time that I'm part of this session. So thank you so much. And just one correction, you said that a couple of awards that I won, that they were more related to my work in the digital marketing space and not data scientist. I have a long way to go before I can become a data scientist. But then industry has been good in recognizing me for all the effort that I've done towards digital advocacy and championing the cause of adoption of digital within corporate India.
Good stuff. So you've left AT&T. What's going on? Give some throw some light on that. Last time when we spoke, you were at AT&T, right?
Yes, Shailendra. So I just left them a few days back. 5th April was my last working day, and I have actually been mulling over the option of leaving them for almost 4 or 5 months now, there was this desire to do something for India, and I've been engaging a lot with startups in my earlier role, because IoT is always an ecosystem play, right? I mean, we got to have the right set of partners, and in my earlier role, I engaged with quite a few startups and many niche IoT players where we try to dovetail some of their products and solutions into our solution and take it to our customers. And I've seen a number of startups having great solutions, good products and services, but they need someone who can give them access to the larger enterprises. And so I felt that, I was compelled to think, hey, let's do something for these startups. And they are the ones who are going to generate the maximum employment. They are the future of India. So I thought, okay, I'll probably consult and advise a few startups, a couple of them to start with, which are strong in certain niche areas like digital supply chain and all that. And then slowly I'll expand and add a few more to my list in terms of advising and consulting them. There was also, and I felt a need to also mentor young men and women. I've been doing that, but I found quite a few wanting direction, wanting guidance, and I felt, they are the young minds of India, the future leaders. So I also felt that I must do something for them. So I'm kind of going to do multiple things, Shailendra. So one is advising and consulting startups, helping the younger generation in terms of giving them the right guidance, and then also I want to get involved in a little bit of academic activity. There's a couple of colleges where I'm going to be on their board to advise them on the right curriculum when it comes to digital, IoT and AI and all that, because a lot of the curriculum is very dated, not industry ready. And I just want to use my experience, my expertise that I've gained over the last so many years to help some of these institutions to frame the right curriculum so that when students come out, they are far better prepared to take on jobs as compared to what it is today. So looking forward to my new journey, Shailendra. I felt the need to do something for India, and that has really, compelled me to, leave a very comfortable job and, get into my new phase in life, Shailendra.
Good stuff. Thank you. So, excuse me. So, all the startups who are watching this, if you need a pie of Sunil's mind, please reach out to him directly or reach out to me and I'll reach out to him. The government of India, if anyone wants any help in this space and you want Sunil's help, reach out to him directly or reach out to me. I'll connect you with him. He's one of the greatest in this space. So, and I'm lucky to have him on this show. So very, very quickly, guys, before I go away and hand over to Sunil, please, whosoever is watching this, please like this video, share this around so more and more people can learn from what Sunil and what Annapurna has just told you and then explained to you. One thing, secondly, please like and follow this, follow me on whatever platform you're watching this. And also, if you've got any comments, put that during the presentation, put that in the comment section and I will post that to Sunil as we go after the presentation. So please take your time, watch this, enjoy it. And if you like what you're seeing, press the like button and also put your question in the comment section very quickly. Okay, Sunil, I will hand over to you. But before that, can you please press the presentation mode on the slides so that I can very quickly share the slides and I'll disappear.
Okay, great. Okay. So sorry
Over to you.
about this. Okay,
No worries. Okay.
right. So, right. So, as far as today's agenda was concerned, I just wanted to first talk about the current business landscape that we're seeing, especially post COVID, how digital transformation pretty much got accelerated over the last 2 years. And when you talk about digital transformation, there are various levers that are driving change. And I thought I'll bring this into the discussion today because I want to give you all the message that, while 5G is a great technology, 5G is not the solution to address many of the challenges both the industry faces and the country faces. 5G is only a part of the whole solution. And there are various levers which are very important for us to drive, so whether it is infrastructure related to digital communication, whether cloud, IoT and AI. So I'm going to very at a high level touch upon all of that stuff and then get to the real meat, which is 5G and its characteristics, and some of the use cases that we are seeing from an enterprise and consumer standpoint, and then talk about where we are from an India standpoint in terms of adoption, and then I would conclude, and then we'll take time for question and answer. Now let's just look at the current business landscape, right? So we've seen this whole digital evolution kind of play out, not just within a country, but this is happening globally, right? And the pandemic has actually accelerated that, right? The dependency on digital went up significantly over the last 2 years, and we've also started to see these kind of boundaries blur between the physical and the digital worlds, right? So we use the term called phygital now, right? It's both offline and online combined together. And the pace at which this is happening, the change velocity is very, very fast. Now, all of this is powered by a number of technology trends, right? So if you just look at some of these trends, for example, software, a lot of software is being fused into products and services. For example, today a connected car has got more than 10 or 15 million lines of code. Today you use concepts of things like software defined networking, software defined data center, right? So a lot of software is now being used. We've also started to see mobility. When I say mobility, the ability for one to access any application from any device, right? So you've seen this mobility and cloud convergence happening, right? Applications of the cloud, and one can use any device to access those applications. Cloud adoption picked up significantly over the last couple of years, and this is only going to grow. And what was very interesting is that many of the small and medium enterprises have also started to use cloud now. I'm going to touch upon IoT at a very high level, because IoT will definitely adoption will definitely increase once you have 5G networks, because 5G comes with a lot of capacity, connection density, and that will definitely propel IoT growth. We are living in a data-powered economy today, right? I mean, as they say, data is the new oil, but it definitely needs to be refined. And today, businesses need the power of data. They need the insights to take the right decisions, and also, most importantly, to predict outcomes. And then, as we talk about connecting all these assets to the internet, a lot of software being used, a lot of data being sent to the cloud, you obviously need to secure all of that, right? So security is obviously a big consideration, whether it is endpoint security, network security, data security, and so on. Now, as I mentioned, there are 6 levers, and I'm not going to go into the details of each of that, because I just want to kind of set the context before we get to the 5G topic. But when you talk about the augmentation of our infrastructure in India, that definitely needs a lot of beefing up, right? So if you just look at the cloud infrastructure, I mean, we have pretty much all the major cloud providers in India, be it Amazon, Azure, Alibaba, they're all in India. And all of them have been operating here for many years. And many of them have set up their cloud nodes here, right? And we are also going to see a lot more data centers being set up in India. We've seen a lot of growth of that over the last many years. And as per a research by Ken Research, it's going to hit about 2 billion in terms of revenue in next 3 years. And in the budget which was announced recently, data center was included as an industry which is getting infrastructure status. I think the government has recognized that this is a very important industry, the data center industry, and because it's now going to get that infrastructure status, those who want to set up data centers will be able to get concessional financing. And I think we really need a lot more data centers in India, not just in the metros, but also in tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities, because once you have 5G deployed, it's going to generate a humongous amount of data, and you really need all those data centers to be confined within Indian boundaries, to take advantage. And the data protection bill, which is being debated, still not an act yet, but there is a possibility that there might be some guidelines where there may be a need to have data stored within Indian boundaries. It could be banking, it could be any other industry. And if you have that as an act, and if it's going to be mandatory to have data confined within Indian boundaries, then all the more reason why we should have a lot more data centers in India. Internet of Things, and I've been an IoT evangelist for the last 5 years, and I always try to make the point that when you talk about IoT, it's just not about things and technology. IoT is about connecting people. You want to improve interactions. You want that visibility of your entire business, right? So you talk about the operational technology, right? Whether you talk about from a manufacturing standpoint in a factory, you talk about a retail solution, you're talking about connected cars. So the entire operational environment, you want to get very good visibility of that, right? So you want to sensorize as many assets as possible, because only when you sensorize all those assets, when you get the data from that, and that's when your AI and machine learning will come, your analytics will come into play, because you want to make sure that you are able to get the data in the right format and make the right decisions based on all the insights that you're going to get from data. And can you imagine, in a country like India, we have billions of assets, and the amount of value that can be unlocked by getting data from those assets, right? So for any industry, and just look at manufacturing, if you have an asset in a factory, that asset has to either generate revenue for you, or if it's an asset which is not generating revenue, if you have to keep that asset for whatever reason. Simple example being an air conditioner. It may not generate revenue for you, but you're using it for convenience. You'll probably want to reduce the maintenance cost of managing that AC, right? Then IoT would come into play here. If you have a machine, of course, that's generating revenue for you. So you want to not just monitor it, but you got to maintain it, make sure that it doesn't go down, and so on, right? So IoT is opening a lot of possibilities today. One can use IoT to improve your efficiencies, reduce your cost, but it is also enabling companies to create new services and solutions. So today, leveraging the power of IoT and AI, companies are able to offer new business models. And I just want to take this example of a company in Bangalore, which is selling water purifiers. They were trying to disrupt the water purifier market, and they were competing against the unorganized market, guys who sell these 20-liter cans, 10-liter cans. And actually, they came up with a very unique model. They sensorized, or they used IoT and fused it into the water purifier, and are offering it as a service to the customer. So the customer actually doesn't buy the water purifier. They only pay based on the amount of water they consume, because there is a volume sensor inside that which will measure the consumption of water. So a very unique model where it's called water as a service, where just as how you use cloud, software as a service or compute as a service, companies today are innovating around their models to offer water as a service. And this is only going to increase, because companies, as individuals, as companies, you really want to use these solutions to deliver business outcomes, right? You want to pay for these solutions so that they generate the right outcomes for you. Now, the other important dimension being the democratization of AI. And I think this is very, very important, because if you just look at AI adoption in India, it's still very low. And when you have IoT generating, using the sensors that you're going to sensorize all these assets, the data that's going to get generated, the need to make sure that you can have AI at scale, I think that's very, very critical. And while you might see a lot of the large enterprises adopt AI, and they might probably have the skills to manage or to build AI applications, the right algorithms, if you really want India to be a data-powered economy, and India has a target of reaching 1 trillion digital economy in 3 years, then we really need for AI to really go to pretty much every nook and corner of India. And that would mean that the cost of having AI should be low, and the onus is on providers to ensure that they're able to offer it cost effectively to many of the small and medium enterprises. The third factor which I wanted to highlight is this whole platform and ecosystem economy. Tomorrow's battles are not going to be between one company and another. It's going to be an ecosystem versus an ecosystem battle, right? So, we've already seen the platform economy play out in the US. We're seeing that in India as well, right? I mean, you just look at all the big guns, Reliance Industries, Tata recently launched the new app. So they're kind of building an ecosystem where they get the buyers on one side, the sellers on one side, and get all the other key stakeholders together and create that network effect, as they call it, right? The more you get the number of users, more buyers, you create a lot more activity, and that will drive revenues, right? And it could pretty much apply in every industry, right? It could apply in fintech, it could apply in retail, and telecom, automotive, right? So you want to make sure that a number of players come as part of this ecosystem, and that will drive a lot more activity. And so this is one area which I think where 5G will play a part, because the moment you come and want to connect to some of these ecosystems, you really need high bandwidth. You really need that experience. I just wanted to highlight some of the big platforms that India, the country, have built. All of you all know Aadhaar, one of the largest digital identity program. CoWIN was a fantastic platform that was built. Many of these large platforms have been built for scale and universality, right? And I think there are so many countries which are now taking a leaf from India, and they want to learn from India in terms of how we have built these platforms for 1 billion plus people, right? The platform economy will definitely play out even in the private sector, in my view. Now, I talked about cybersecurity initially, and I thought this is very, very relevant here, because when you're generating so much of data from your IoT asset, from your IoT sensors, and with all the data going to the cloud, you obviously need to secure all of that stuff, right? And the threat landscape has changed a lot over the last 2 years. Significant amount of threats, attacks have happened over the last 2 years. Ransomware attacks, phishing attacks, a lot of the industrial assets of companies have been attacked into. We've also seen, a nation attacking another nation's cyber assets, right? And the threat landscape will change even more going forward. The attacks are going to get even a lot more sophisticated. You find hackers using even AI tools today to find out how to go and hack, leveraging the power of data and all that stuff, right? So I think what is really needed is for organizations to maintain what is called a security posture. It has to be a very holistic approach when you talk about security: device, network, and your application in the cloud, right? Now, you have all the technologies, you have IoT, you have all the data, you have applications on the cloud, you obviously have to secure all of that. One important aspect being the skilling, right? And I think this is an area where it's going to be extremely important, not just for India, but across the world. And today in India, we have a huge shortage for talent, right? And I just highlighted a few quotes which are from well-known industry leaders from across India, in which they clearly spelt out that talent is going to be the differentiator. And even from a 5G standpoint, I think we really need it. Might drive a lot of opportunities from an employment perspective when it comes to 5G. In terms of where are you going to place the towers, radio engineering, architecting the right 5G solution. It definitely will throw open a lot of job opportunities. Now, having covered the 6 levers which I talked about, and I started by talking about the digital infrastructure, and I talked about data and cloud. The other important dimension being network infrastructure, right? And I think Annapurna did touch upon 5G quite comprehensively, so it kind of makes my job easier to cover the rest of the presentation, which is 5G specific. But I just wanted to enhance some of the points, or add a little more dimension to what she said. I just want to start by talking about how, if you see how networks have evolved from 1G to 4G, from 1G to 4G, it was all about faster data speeds, right? So if you remember 2G, we could only use it for voice, very, very limited data. And then I think India, the nation, we kind of skipped 3G, but we are all using 4G today. And with 4G, what happened, and especially in 2016 when Jio started offering services, that drove a lot more adoption of 4G, and we started to see a lot more use of data and video, right? So 1G to 4G was all about faster data speeds. Now, 5G is not just about faster data speeds. 5G is all about altering the DNA of the user experience. And the whole value proposition of 5G can be summed up in an equation, which is user experience is equal to low latency plus high speed plus high reliability plus security, right? Because those are the characteristics of 5G. Extremely low latency. You could have less than 10 milliseconds, on a 5G network. Extremely reliable. And 5G uses a protocol called New Radio Protocol. And that the way they've architected that protocol, one can actually get 99.59 kind of reliability, which means that many of the latency sensitive apps like remote surgeries, which Annapurna talked about, would be possible with 5G and massive IoT connectivity. And as I mentioned earlier, IoT adoption is bound to pick up once we have 5G, purely because of the connection density that you have, right? And then your high speeds, right? So you're talking about speeds of 1 gigabits per second and higher, very, very high speeds, which are obviously not possible. And especially if you talk about, you have different frequency bands you have in 5G, right? You have sub gigahertz, you have the mid band, and then you have the millimeter wavelength spectrum, which is about 24 gigahertz going up to 80 and higher. And when you use that kind of spectrum, you can really achieve high speeds. So your ultra high definition content can be downloaded within a few seconds. A lot of applications which are very latency sensitive will perform better, and so on. Now, I did see that Annapurna did talk about this. I'm not going to go into the details of this, but broadly there are three pillars of 5G. The first one being enhanced mobile broadband. So this will drive a lot more consumer adoption, right? So once you have a 5G handset which is affordable, then the kind of applications that you can access is going to be totally different. As I talked about entertainment, a movie, a ultra high definition movie can be downloaded very quickly. Virtual presence, and 5G combined with virtual reality, that will throw open a lot more very interesting applications. It could be in the area of education and so on. The ultra low latency communication, this is again for industrial uses, and I'm going to talk about it a little later in terms of how it can be used in manufacturing environments. And the massive machine type communication, the whole densification, right? You could have about 1 million devices in a 1 square kilometer radius. That's the kind of connection density that you're talking about. So you can imagine it could be a large factory with millions of machines, hundreds and thousands of machines perhaps. All of them can be connected on a 5G network, right? So, or it could be a huge educational campus where you're connecting pretty much every asset there on a 5G network, and we started to see that happen. Now, very quickly, industrial applications of 5G. So you have uh, retail industry, you could have manufacturing, and so on, where you could see 5G being deployed. And I just thought I'll highlight a few. So I'll talk about manufacturing, I'll talk a little bit about healthcare. And given the constraints of time, I can't talk about all the other industries. But since I started by saying that it's all about the user experience, the question one might have is that, okay, all these applications which you're seeing here, whether it is retail robotics or smart shelf or quality control, patient comfort, mobile banking, and all that, might be possible with the 4G network. So why would one want to go for 5G, right? So when you talk about 5G, 5G is not about trying to make incremental changes. 5G is about making transformational changes. So if I'm going to use 5G, it has to definitely transform my business in a completely different way, which will enhance experience for my customers. See, we are living in an experience economy today. And what differentiates one from the other is if I'm able to give better customer experience, right? It's a very competitive world, right? Customer experience is the most critical part. And if I'm able to leverage 5G to improve my customer experience, so a simple example being mobile banking, right? You're all accessing our apps on the, you're all doing digital banking, right? We are used to a certain speed. Now, if you are talking about very high speeds on 5G, one is your experience of accessing those apps will become faster. And if you really need to have, a video call with your relationship manager, the quality of the video is obviously going to be much different, right? So, better customer experience, 5G promises through its characteristics that it can actually change that, and we'll have to see how it plays out. I'm going to talk about fan experience later in terms of sporting events, how you could actually leverage 5G for that. But in all these industries, 5G definitely promises to completely alter the experience of customers. And I just want to now start by talking about manufacturing here. We are seeing a lot of use cases within a manufacturing environment in a shop floor, where you could have 5G being deployed. And I just wanted to highlight some of them. For example, it could be in the area of remote operations of a factory, right? And especially in the COVID situation, if you had a 5G network and high speed and the ability to remotely monitor pretty much every asset, the robotic motion control, which needs very low latency, the automated guided vehicles which carry stuff from one point to the other within the shop floor, monitoring that in real time using a high speed network, all very good use cases. Worker safety, extremely important, because you want to make sure that you have high resolution cameras which will detect whether somebody is wearing their personal protection equipment. Today you do have CCTVs which are there in factories, but the resolution of that might be not so good, or even if the resolution is good, you might not have very good data networks to transmit that. And we're going to have 5G networks, and if we're able to transmit high def video from the factory to somebody who's remotely monitoring it would make a huge difference, right? So factory automation, predictive maintenance of all your machines, the whole aspect of robots working with humans, cobot, AR for training. I think these are very useful examples. For example, if you have a particular product of a manufacturer, and maybe there is some complexity in that product, and it's on the field, and you have a technician going and trying to fix that problem, and if he's not able to do it and he needs help from an expert, he can actually use AR for that. And with the 5G network, he can actually get step-by-step instructions from the expert, guiding him how to fix that problem if it's on the field, or even in a factory if it's a very complex machine and you have someone wanting to fix it. You can also use the power of 5G to help to get the right expertise to help fix that problem. AR for training, you can get into that virtual reality mode, and especially in a shop floor, when before somebody actually knows how to operate certain machines, he can use AR for training. So it's going to be 5G coupled with all of this coming together. As I said, 5G, IoT, and you need all these other complementing technologies to come together to give you that value, right? Annapurna talked about the aspect of an edge solution, so multi-access edge compute. So you could have a lot of the data that is being generated all being processed closer to where it's being generated from. So you could have an edge device which will process all the data. You may not need to send all the data to the cloud, but 5G with edge, will be good for certain use cases, especially if you have a situation where, say, a machine is generating a lot of data, and that machine is a very critical machine, and you cannot wait for the data to go to the cloud in case there's a problem with the machine. You want to process the data very quickly and control and take an action. Then yes, 5G plus MEC will definitely will be a good solution for that. 5G in healthcare. Now, here, whether you're talking about within a hospital, if you want to use 5G, to connect pretty much every asset within the within the hospital, the data that's being generated, security that you want to maintain for that. So what's going to happen is that 5G will again, play a big part in that, to meet all these demands, because the amount of data being generated is also huge. And how do you manage all of the data? And if you have a situation where all the data that is being stored, and if you have a lot, especially if you have a lot of X-rays and a lot of files which have a lot of video and imaging content, and if you actually want to transmit it through a network to, say, a doctor or a specialist, with 5G is going to be much, much faster. And then also telemedicine will definitely get a boost, because today actually telemedicine picked up big time during the pandemic. But we were used to a certain resolution, right? A doctor interacting with a patient on our broadband network or on a 4G network. But with 5G, it's going to be completely different, because it's going to be much fast. The resolution is going to be much, much faster. And simple example, if you are actually interacting with a skin specialist, with the higher resolution that is possible, the skin specialist can actually get a much better visibility of, say, a skin in a certain part of the body, as opposed to today's networks, right? And that would help in a lot more better diagnosis, right? So from the comfort of your home, you're able to get the right advice from pretty much any doctor that you want to, right? So healthcare industry, definitely we will find a lot more use cases for 5G. I actually wanted to share a short 1-minute video to show how a remote surgery was done using a 5G network. And this was done in China about 3 years back. So what I want to do is, I don't want to take the risk of going back into the non-presentation mode and coming back because of the technical difficulties that we had. So what I'll do is I'll try to finish my presentation and then come back and try to play this video. I hope it's okay with you, Shailu. Let me try it. Let me try it. Can you all hear the sound?
Yes, we can. It's all good.
Right. And I think a few months later, in that same very year, a remote surgery was done on a 5G network, where a person who had Parkinson's disease in one part of China the surgeon couldn't actually be in the operating theater that day, and he was in a different city, and he was actually on a 5G network, was able to instruct the actual surgeons who are at the table to help them through that whole surgery. So, an application like this would definitely need very low latency, very high reliability, and that is definitely going to be possible going forward. Uh, Talking about some other examples where you could use 5G in transportation, again, Annapurna talked about autonomous vehicles. So in a controlled environment, you could have, some of these, driverless vehicles which are there. And then if you talk about autonomous cars, uh, there you really need very low latency, very high speeds. So applications like that would definitely need 5G networks. Again, it's going to be 5G with MEC combined, which will drive some of these applications. It's going to add a lot of value to customers. Uh, Talking about drones, I just wanted to give you an example of a large telecom operator which uses drones to monitor the cellular towers. So many of the cellular towers are in remote locations, and there might be a safety issue. Someone has to actually climb a tower and see whether there's a problem with that. And what this telecom operator did is they had high resolution video cameras attached to the drone, and the drone was taking pictures in high resolution of the tower and transmitting in 5G back to the control center. And they had a video server which was analyzing all the video feeds, and they're actually able to remotely figure out what the problem was and remotely troubleshoot and fix that problem, right? So these are possible applications, with drones, and it could apply not just to monitor towers, but to, it could be in the area of public safety. It could be in insurance. You find drones today delivering vaccines. In fact, in India, there was a pilot which was launched in Telangana where drones were actually delivering vaccines to a place where they were actually they had a big problem in terms of getting access to that place, and they use drones for that. And you can actually control these drones using a 5G network. Now, having covered enterprise, I talked about manufacturing, I talked a little bit about retail, I talked about public safety. I just want to quickly touch upon entertainment, because if you just look at India, the market, it's a booming market. The entertainment market is only likely to boom, and we've seen a lot of over-the-top players, do really well over the last 2 years. We have about more than 40 plus over-the-top players who are there in India. And what we've seen is that, again, there's a lot of competition in the space. You all the over-the-top players, you name it, be it Disney and Hotstar working together. It could be an Amazon Prime Video. It could be a Reliance Jio. It could be any player who are in the space. Their whole objective is to bolster their content programming. People want original content, right? And the quality of the content is what is going to drive loyalty, right? And personalization of content, right? I mean, you want content that is personal for you. And also in a country like India, which is so diverse, you want content in your local languages. You also want adoption. We're seeing this adoption of short form user generated content, right? People take short videos, and we are living in a world where the attention span of people is so low, right? And if you're able to create a video within 20-30 seconds, like for example, Instagram has got reels where you can create these short videos. But if you're able to use content in the form of video, and you're able to transmit through a network like 5G, that will definitely have a much better impact. And we probably might see a lot more connected TVs on the rise going forward. So today, if you want to consume content, you use your phone, you might use your PC, you might also use your TV, right? I mean, you could have a connected TV, but we'll probably see a lot more use of connected TVs. And if you're going to, and you might be using your broadband network to connect to your service provider. Imagine if you get 5G connected to a connected TV, the kind of content that one can consume will be mind blowing, right? I mean, at speeds of 1 gigabits and higher, it will completely transform the experience of people who are watching the content on that. And how is it going to impact the OTT? And I think Annapurna talked about this whole aspect of quality of service. And here it is quality of experience, right? So we all want much better experience, right? And over the top players, they have their high value subscribers, and those high value subscribers might probably be giving them 80% of their revenues, the typical Marito principle, where 80% of our revenues might come from 20% of the customers. But they might be high value subscribers who have some of the 20% customers who have really high value. And if you're able to enhance the quality of experience with them, they are definitely willing to pay a premium for you, right? And when you combine 5G with AR and VR, that whole immersive and interactive experiences one might get, that will get enhanced. Cloud gaming is definitely likely to get a boost today, because the gaming hardware doesn't come cheap today, right? I mean, the gaming hardware that one might use from Microsoft or anyone else, that doesn't come cheap. And if you're able to use 5G, you really don't need very expensive gaming hardware. You can actually use your PC or your phone, and you have all the gaming applications on the cloud. The moment you have your gaming application in the cloud, you really need a very high speed network, and that's where 5G would come in. And then there are targeted advertisements, hyper targeted advertisements, right? If you're able to create the short videos advertising your product, given the short attention span, if you're able to do it on 5G, then that will probably have better impact as compared to what it is being done today. And then the bundling of, you got to bundle all these various applications, like e-learning will definitely get transformed, using 5G. If you're able to enhance your learning, um, uh, 5G will play a part in that. E-health and wellness, the sporting events, which can get a boost when you're using 5G. I have a couple of slides on that. For example, again, a large telecom operator a few years back, they were able to live stream a golfing event, from the stadium to their subscribers. And someone can be at the stadium. Not everybody might go to the stadium. There might be people in the stadium who can actually take a video of this, and they can stream it back, to the cloud, or maybe send that video to their friends, right? So the whole fan engagement is going to be different. And there are players who have set up private 5G networks within a large sporting environment, right? So again, it's all about much better experience for people in the stadia, and for people who cannot go to the stadia to get that experience of being in the stadia. 5G will definitely play a part in that. Some of the key drivers that would drive success for the content providers. Content is obviously going to be key, and 5G is only going to enrich that content and enable the monetization opportunities for them. 5G affordability in India, that's going to be a question mark. We'll have to wait and watch. I'll touch upon it when I talk about the status of 5G in India. But you really got to make sure that 5G affordability in Tier 3 and Tier 4 cities is reasonable, because whether I talk about handsets or data plans. And then I talked about the ecosystem, right? So you got to get the whole ecosystem in place. The over-the-top players, the telcos coming together, the guys who make the devices, the applications. You got to make sure that all of them work together, all of them agree on a revenue share model, and that's when they can really get maximum value. Now the big question is, what's the status in India, right? So if you today, as things stand, we do not have spectrum which has been auctioned yet. And in India today, unfortunately, the cost of spectrum is very high. I think it's the highest in the world. That's number one. Number two, the average spectrum holding of an operator in India is far less compared to global standards. So for India to be ready for 5G, I think a couple of things need to happen. Number one, the cost of spectrum for 5G has to be made affordable, because many other countries have started to auction spectrum, and for them it's not as expensive. And if the government and the Department of Telecom, if they are able to make sure that they don't price the cost of spectrum high, and it makes it affordable for the operators. If it's affordable for the operators, then obviously it will be affordable for customers. And 5G is just not about spectrum alone, right? I mean, the cost of spectrum, even if it's lowered, there's a lot of investment needed from the operators in terms of creating fiber infrastructure that will connect the towers, right? Because it's not good enough just to have enough spectrum, but you also see you're sending data from your phone to the nearest tower, right? From the nearest tower, it's going and connecting to the packet core of the service provider, and tower to tower communication in India, from one tower to tower, today it's all using a combination of fiber and microwave, and that they have its own challenges and limitations. You can actually add a lot more fiber, and if you're using fiber at very high speeds, then you can move all that high speed data, and the amount of data that is being generated is going to be huge, right? That will be much faster in fiber as opposed to microwave today, right? So it needs spectrum to be low cost, affordable. It needs a lot more fiberization of towers. Today, only 20 or 30% of our towers are fiberized. We obviously need to increase it to 80 or 90%. So that needs to happen. And we, we also need the whole ecosystem to come together, right? Because while the telecom operators play their part in making sure that they are able to implement 5G in India, and hopefully with the spectrum, which is not very expensive, and also get the towers fiberized, uh, the other players in the ecosystem also needs to make sure that they do their part, right? So the device players would need to, in fact, the handset provider, they need to make sure that they're able to lower the cost of the handsets. The application providers need to have really compelling content so that people would want to use the 5G network, right? So ecosystem has to come into play. I just come to my last slide, and here I just want to conclude by saying a few things. One is that 5G is never the solution. 5G is always going to be a part of a solution, right? So 5G has to be coupled with IoT, AI, AR and VR. When you combine all these technologies together, that's when an organization would get the maximum business value. Secondly, if you want to use 5G, it's not for incremental changes. As I said, it's for transformational changes. Can I use 5G that will going to bring about a lot of transformation within the way I interact with my customers, in my business models? So that's when, because at the end of the day, nobody would want to use 5G just for the sake of the fact that 5G is today, being talked about, and there's been a lot of hype about 5G. And if 5G really has to deliver, it has to make sure that it is giving the return on investment for pretty much every industry, right? It's all about driving business outcomes, right? So it has to be affordable, and it has to create the transformation changes, and the need for the ecosystem to work together. And here it's where the partnerships and business models will be with the key, because nobody can say that I can give the 5G end-to-end solution on my own. Nobody can ever claim to do that. You got to have the operators coming together. You got the system integrators coming together, chipset manufacturers, the guys who make the 5G chipsets, the handset players, and partnerships will drive that whole thing. The need for someone to play the role of an ecosystem orchestrator and enable that service for the customer, that will be very key. And also how you are going to change your business models, right? You got to alter your business models to offer something which is, say, as a service or based on achieving certain business outcomes. And if you're able to use 5G for that, then I think there's a very good chance that they might have a better chance of success as opposed to others who are offering traditional business models. So this is my last point, and I just want to thank once again Shailendra for giving me the opportunity to share my thoughts on this topic. I have written quite a few articles on 5G. Very soon, a large consulting company called Zinov, they had interviewed me a couple of months back, and they have taken some of my inputs on my 5G thought leadership. So they should be out with a report in a week or two. And once I get it, I'll definitely share it with anyone who's interested. But these are all my coordinates, my mobile number, my email ID. You can also follow me on LinkedIn and Twitter. I'm more active on LinkedIn compared to Twitter, but anyone wanting to reach out to me, feel free to do so. So with that, I'm done, and thank you so much for your time and attention. And I'm happy to take questions now. Shailendra,
Sorry, I forgot to
I can't hear you, Shailendra.
How are you? Good stuff. So thank you very much, and let me very quickly see if we've got any questions. Um, no, not really. Not many questions, but I have a couple of questions for you. So let me ask you the questions I have, possibly um, uh, maybe interesting to the audience as well. So as we're seeing the advent of metaverse coming in, and that's the topic that we're going to see, how's 5G going to impact the metaverse environment? What's your point of view on that?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Shailendra, because when you talk about the metaverse, it's all about creating those virtual 3D worlds, in an immersive environment, and you're trying to amalgamate the physical and the augmented experiences together. And when you're attempting to do that, you really need very good networks,
Yeah.
because when you're in that virtual world, right, and when you want to get that experience that you really want to get in that virtual environment, your network speeds would have to be very fast, and you really need very, very low latency when you're trying to interact with people in that virtual world, because any lag in communication will alter that experience, right? So I think from a metaverse standpoint, 5G will play a huge role, Shailendra.
So now you've raised that the problem that I see in my mind is that 5G will be very essential for metaverse. Otherwise, that experience won't happen because you're in the virtual world and it's lagging or it's dropping or whatever is happening. So you need to have that kind of an experience in the virtual world, and 5G as an infrastructure will play a key role in that. Does that mean that we will have to put too many towers, or how's the network going to look like? So every building will have a tower on its own. How's it going to work?
Right. So see, Shailendra, the advantage of 5G is that one is it can integrate with all their earlier technologies, right? So it can integrate with the obviously with the 4G, but what it really needs is, Shailendra, to use all the different frequency bands that 5G offers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, yes, you will need a lot more towers. That's number one, but you also have to architect the solution in such a way that, for example, there's a very high density area, a lot of population in a specific area there. There you'll probably need to have a 5G infrastructure with maybe the millimeter wavelength spectrum with very high frequency, where you can get that high bandwidth. So maybe certain pockets you could use millimeter wavelength. There might be some pockets where you might use a mid-band spectrum. There might be some pockets where you might use sub gigahertz, right? So I think it's important, because I think India today, the plan is to use only mid-band, 3.3 to 3.5 gigahertz. And I think the higher frequency bands today, I'm not really sure whether, I'm just talking from an India standpoint. This is different globally, but I'll come to global. But from an India standpoint, it's important to kind of harmonize and use multiple spectrum bands. As far as outside, if you just talk about the world view, and from a metaverse standpoint, I think we don't have those kind of challenges in terms of, unlike what you have in India in terms of laying fiber and all that stuff. So I think operators today, we have so many commercial deployments of 5G already there, and most of those Western countries have already done a lot of fiberization of the towers. So I think they are now metaverse. Maybe in a year or so they'll be metaverse ready. They still have to augment that infrastructure, because you need a lot of the other factors to come into play, Shailendra, because 5G is just one part of it. In the metaverse world, you'll probably be using a lot more virtual reality headsets, and
Yep.
the virtual reality headset cost is still, um, uh, you know, not affordable. Let me put it that way. And if you really want to take metaverse to the masses, then you got to get the cost of those headsets down, right? So you need a lot of things to come together. 5G is just one part of it. So, and then the cloud, because you're going to use huge amount of data, you're going to have these applications running on a cloud, and you need that infrastructure to support it, right? So a lot of this have to come together to make sure that users get that experience that they want to, right? So that would be my answer to that question.
Good stuff. There are a couple of questions, and let me just take them. And guys, if you've got any question for Sunil, please put that in the comment section. I will definitely take those questions. But let me start with the question. So there's a question from Annapurna, and she says, "Sir, how 5G implementation and security challenges affect businesses, specifically in India?"
So 5G is obviously going to generate massive amounts of data, and I think the security is going to be a big challenge. Very good question, Annapurna. So, and if you just look at our country from a security standpoint, there's a lot that needs to be done. I mean, while the government have taken a lot of initiatives to make sure that there are central emergency response teams to respond to security challenges. Uh, Again, Shailendra, it's a lot of the players coming together that will solve this problem, Shailendra. It needs government intervention with the right policy and framework. It needs industry to collaborate. It needs academia to collaborate, the private sector. It's all of them have to come together to address the security challenges. I don't think we can just leave it on the government to come up with policies and framework, but
Mhm.
what is really needed to have that security first mindset, okay, where you're going to have security fused into the design of the product itself. So products have to be designed with the security by design principle, and it has to be a holistic approach, securing all the endpoints which are generating all the data, the network which you have got to secure, so that becomes critical, and the apps which are going to be on the cloud, you're going to have huge amount of data, so securing that. So, and at the end of the day, Shailendra, it's security is all about risk management. Nobody can ever claim that they have 100% secure environment. If somebody has said that
Absolutely.
they have 100% secure environment, I don't think they are telling the truth. It's all about how do you manage the risk, how do you ensure that even if somebody hacks into your network or your system, how do you ensure that the damage is very minimal, and that will be the objective. And over a period of time you might probably get to a stage where maybe you're able to get to that close to 100% security, but until then it's going to be a big challenge, right? So in my view, just to answer that question, you need all stakeholders to come together, and the onus is on everyone. uh, you know Even for individuals like you and me, we got to follow security hygiene. We keep getting bombarded with phishing mails and all that stuff, and we need to be aware of what to click and what not to click on, right? So within enterprises, a lot of the threats which happen are insider threats. They are the ones who are creating those challenges. So I think that's another challenge. So it needs everyone to come together to address some of these challenges.
No, and I totally get you what you're saying, because that requires a lot of education for a common man walking on the street on what to do and what not to do. And I think that is also a big challenge, and that's not just 5G related. It's just in relation to IT and the technology people are using. Okay, let
Right.
me ask the next question again from Annapurna, and she says, "How digital divide will affect the 5G implementation in India?"
Yeah, so this is a, it brings me to that point about affordability, Shailendra, because um, today you might have all the major cities having very good infrastructure, and I think COVID was an example where you had this play out, digital divide. People in remote locations in India, they had a challenge, and I have seen those videos and pictures of someone moving from the house, walking to the nearest tower where they can actually get a signal and they're able to connect, right? So yes, so this would mean that the infrastructure has to get beefed up, and forget about 5G. Overall cellular infrastructure has to be beefed up. And here, what is very important, Shailendra, is that we need coming together of different communication technologies. It's just not cellular alone. You can have 5G cellular,
Mhm.
you could have fiber that can be laid wherever possible, and you could also use satellite. And we are seeing big players today wanting to implement satellite services for companies in India. Elon Musk has announced Starlink, which is to offer satellite based connectivity to homes and offices. You have Reliance Geo, which is set up a joint venture with a company called SES, which is wanting to offer satellite services. Airtel has announced a joint venture. It's called OneWeb, where they have 36 satellites in the Earth, low Earth orbit, which will provide satellite services in India. So you need all these communication technologies to come together, work, and that will kind of make sure that it kind of penetrates into all the rural hinterlands of India. So 5G has to be coupled with all these other adjacent technologies to be able to make sure that we kind of bridge that digital divide. And we need that infrastructure to spread across everywhere at an affordable cost, right? And again, it goes back to the point about the fact that spectrum costs have to be lowered. The cost of plans which are eventually going to be offered on 5G, that has to be affordable. Cost of handsets, because even if you're going to get infrastructure across India, for somebody in a rural part of India, and if he wants to use a 5G application, he can't afford a 25-30,000 handset, right? It has
Oh, yeah.
to obviously be at a very low cost, and that would mean that you'll probably have to make those stuff in India as opposed to importing it from other countries, right?
Good stuff. Thank you very much. Annapurna says thank you very much for the wonderful talk, sir. And yep, thanks. Yep, and that was the question. So thank you very much, Sunil. I think that's all we've got for today. And the audience, thank you very much for joining us. It was actually pleasure, and thanks to both Sunil and Annapurna. You guys did a great job, and to peeling out that onion 5G, which is like complications to a lot of people, and the art of possibility and what kind of use cases that they can be create, that they can bring in. So thank you, Sunil. Thank you for your time. It was a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you so much, Shailendra. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks. So, guys, that was Sunil as well as Annapurna, and I hope you enjoyed the conversation, their presentation, and I think they did a great job in explaining what 5G can do for the Indian economy, various use cases that come to the table that you can use, and that's how our lives is going to change as we go forward in the coming days. So thank you very much. Before you go, one little request, guys. Please like this video and share this around as I beat the drum all the time. Please make sure more and more people watch this video and learn from both Annapurna and Sunil, because they've put their effort in bringing those insights and onto documenting and sharing it with you. So please, please, please share this around. If you're watching this now, please press the like button, and also please press the follow button wherever you're watching this, and also subscribe to the channels and press the bell icon on YouTube if you're watching this on YouTube. Thank you very much. Before I go, a very quick giveaway that we've been talking about is, if you're watching this on LinkedIn and if you've got a LinkedIn profile, then please download this app. It is absolutely free for the audience. It is available on both Google Play and iOS App Store. All you need to do is key in Link Plus AI, or key in or just use your camera to scan the QR code. It's an invite only app. All you need to do is press the invite code 611074, and it will give you a good understanding of what your LinkedIn profile looks like, what it is doing for you, how people are how do you project to the world with your LinkedIn profile. And also it also does a health check of your LinkedIn profile, how good it is, how not. So Link Plus AI is the app. It's a machine learning based app, absolutely free and safe, and also with no ads. It is for my audience, so please use the app and let us know what you think about it. So yeah, that's absolutely free. That's a giveaway. Thank you very much. Thank you for watching. If you've got any questions for me, please put that in the comment section. I will take those questions personally, and I hope you like the content that is coming in. And if you like it, please like it, and press the follow button. I've seen a lot of people who come and watch the videos, but they don't follow or subscribe to the channel. It means a lot, and it really helps if you follow the channel. So please press the follow button and subscribe button as you go. Thank you very much, and I'll see you very soon in the next episode of the Shelly Show. So bye now and take care.